Hi guys, welcome back. Thanks for joining me. So today we are going to talk about Lady Day. We're going to talk about Billie Holiday, who is contestably one of the greatest jazz singers of all time. But before we get into what makes her so great, let's get into her history a little bit. So Billie Holiday was born Eleanora Fagan in Baltimore, Maryland in 1915. But she had a troubled life right from the beginning. When she was 10 years old, a neighbor tried to rape her, so she was sent to a home for wayward girls. This was in 1925. So in 1928, she decided to leave the home and move to Harlem, New York, where she reconnected with her mother. And though she was only 14 at the time, she became a prostitute for a short while. But she also was starting to develop her musical career and decided to discard her name Eleanora Fagan and take on the name Billie Holiday. Billie for one of her favorite actresses at the time, and Holiday for her father, Clarence Holiday. And by 1932, all of this hard work had paid off because she sang at a place called the Log Cabin Club, and her career exploded. Her name started to spread through the city like wildfire, and by 1937, she decided to start singing with Count Basie's orchestra and stayed with them for about a year before she moved on to Artie Shaw's band. And that is really what shows that she was already becoming an amazing jazz singer, because those are some really big names, Count Basie and Artie Shaw. If you were to be playing or singing with Count Basie or Artie Shaw, then you had pretty much made it in your jazz career, and she sang with both. So that in itself is an amazing thing, but there are more amazing things to come. And amazing things which start in 1937 with a poem called Strange Fruit. So the poem Strange Fruit was written by a man named Abel Meeropol. In 1937, he saw an image of an African-American man who had been lynched in the South, and he was so horrified by this image that he decided to write a poem called Strange Fruit and publish it anonymously in a newspaper. And this poem became the face almost for a commentary on racism in America. And by 1939, it had been transcribed into a song and presented to Billie Holiday. Now remember that Billie's career at this point was still pretty new. It had started in 1932 at the Log Cabin Club, and then she started singing with Count Basie's band in 1937, and then Artie Shaw's band in 1938. So by 1939, her fame was still very new, and anything could really disrupt it at that time, especially a song like Strange Fruit that was a direct call on fixing racism in America. And for a Black woman who was just starting her career, this could not only have an impact on her career or her reputation, but this could also have a negative, dangerous impact on her life. And she was very aware of this. She was very nervous about singing this song. She was very nervous about the retaliations that it might have. But in the end, she decided that it was just too personal to her life to not sing. And in 1939, she debuted the song at Cafe Society at the end of her show, and it became a hit. Against all odds, it became the song that she was known for, and she started to close every show that she ever sang from then on with Strange Fruit. And that was a very important decision for her because the way that she sings that song is like it's a prayer of sorts. The words to this song are in themselves very haunting. I've linked the song so that you can listen to it because it was so important for a reason. The song begins with the words, "Southern trees bear a strange fruit, blood on the leaves and blood at the root." So already you can sort of feel the chills running down your spine just from the words. But the way that she sang this song, like it was a spiritual experience. She was caressing each word, and it was a beautiful song with this grotesque image that you couldn't get out of your brain. You couldn't get the smell out of your nose, and and there was no way to get around it, no way to get around the beauty and the horror mixed together. And she was a true master of this art. And that is just an astounding feat of musicianship that only she could have been brave enough to do. So the second thing that she became known for after Strange Fruit put her name out in the world is something that sets her apart from almost every other female jazz singer of that time period. And that is that she was a composer. She had already proven herself as a master improviser, and I've already, I talk about improvisation in another video, so I won't get into that here. But she started to write her own songs, and that was a very atypical thing for female singers at the time. But not only was she just writing these songs and singing them, but they were becoming massively popular. And some of them are still very popular today. Tunes like Billie's Blues and God Bless the Child are still songs that you'll hear on the radio or in television shows or movies, even if it's just in little snippets. So even aside from all of the women in this series alone, she stands out like a sore thumb because she wasn't just a singer. She also proved herself as a composer and a musician. But unfortunately, this is not a happy story. It did not start out happy, and it's not going to end happy, unfortunately, because she did struggle with depression throughout her whole life. And in fact, that depression developed into a heroin addiction. And by the 40s, she had become so unreliable and unreasonable that people weren't very willing to hire her anymore, which was a huge blow to her career. And in 1956, she developed a drinking problem as well, which not only had a toll on her health, but it also took a huge hit on her voice, which is maybe the biggest tragedy of all because she has such a distinctive, earthy, throaty sound to her voice that for anything to change that is probably the worst thing to happen. And though she tried to make an impact on her health, make things better, and make some comebacks, by July of 1959, she unfortunately passed away. But her legacy did not. Her legacy lives on as one of the best jazz singers and one of the bravest female jazz singers of all time, who has set an example for jazz musicians, jazz composers, female composers, for the rest of history. That pretty much wraps it up for today. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and I will see you next time. Bye.